As a matter of fact, right now, even doing what I do and being in the middle of a pandemic, Heather and I built a speakeasy slash Carolina Hurricanes themed sports bar in our garage, built the whole thing out, and we'll occasionally have some people over, and it's basically like restaurant service. We've even got draft beer in the bar, so.
That
but do you have an industrial coffee maker?
I do not.
Yet.
I have a 14 pot.
Yet.
I've got a French press. I've got an espresso machine. So I think I've got it pretty much covered, but do not have an industrial sized coffee maker at the house.
That sounds amazing.
George is going to time clock us here because I know it's just 9 o'clock and the Facebook button went on.
Uh-oh.
We're live.
Yes, we are. We want to give a couple more minutes for some other folks to step in. We can do that. So Terry, to your point, I know you mentioned going to the kitchen would get your extra steps, but I think the additional coffee that you would be able to consume by having a coffee maker at your desk would increase your metabolism and make up for that.
Well, what you make up for in trips to the kitchen, you make up for in trips to the bathroom. So.
That is a good point, Dave. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start here.
On that
note, yes.
Justifying insane amounts of coffee drinking.
There's no need to justify that. We are 1 million cups after all.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Branding.
Yeah, exactly. We are on brand today. All right, just one more second here. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the RTP chapter of 1 Million Cups. Glad you can join us this morning and catch the tail end of that fantastic coffee conversation. Those are liable to happen when you come to a 1 Million Cups meeting, because that's what we're all about, drinking coffee and helping entrepreneurs become more successful with their businesses. So with that in mind, let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about 1 Million Cups. 1 Million Cups is a free national program designed to educate, engage, and connect entrepreneurs. There are 160 or more communities of 1 Million Cups with chapters of 1 Million Cups across the country. It is a supportive, neutral, industry agnostic space that is not a pitch environment. And what we mean by that is our presenters aren't here to sell to the room. And 1 Million Cups is the local entrepreneurial building ecosystem arm of the Kauffman Foundation. The Kauffman Foundation is a $4 billion endowment for the promotion of economic development through entrepreneurship. The format is that we have 1 to 2 startup presenters that will give 6-minute presentations, followed by about 20 minutes of question and answer from the audience. And the main question that we're here to answer is, what can we as a community do to help our presenter? So keep that in mind when you're watching the presentation. Be cognizant of the presenter's asks from the community, and let's try to focus the conversation and the questions on what can we do to solve those problems or the questions that the presenter has. We would love for you all to get involved with 1 Million Cups. Now, if you're here, you're already involved because you're here to attend and you're here to give feedback to our presenter. But if you'd like to get more involved, you could become an organizer. So there's several organizers today here in the room. I see, I don't see everybody because I've got my screen share on, but I see David and George and Terry and myself. If you want to know how to become an organizer, you could reach out to any of us and we'll point you in the right direction. You could apply to present. So if you have a company that would benefit from presenting at 1 Million Cups, go ahead and submit your application at our website. It's www.1millioncups.com/RTP. Right at the top of the page, there's a button that says apply to present. You just click that button and answer the questions that the application asks for, which are very simple. There's maybe 4 questions total. And then you'll be put in touch with our intake coordinator who will help walk you through the process and pair you with a coach. You could also refer a presenter. So if you're not an entrepreneur or you're not sure that 1 million cups would presenting at 1 million cups would necessarily benefit you, but you know somebody who would, then we would love to talk to them, let them know we're here to help, invite them to a meeting, and perhaps they would be encouraged to go ahead and apply to present as well. I want to thank our community organizers. We have a number of them, as I just mentioned, David Bates, George Stewart, and Terry Conlon. They're all our coaches, and I got pictures on the next slide of them. We've got William Clote, Tracy Ames, who is our aforementioned intake coordinator, Rosalinda Cruz. There's David, George, and Terry, and their wonderful smiling faces. We've got Dan Hepworth, and of course, myself. We also have community sponsors, Muddy Dog Roasting Company, Imperative Product Operations, Global Training Initiative, NC Idea, who's being represented on this call. I see Catherine over there. Hello. American Underground, David's company, Wise Insights, Dan's company, the Massapequa Tutor, Soto IP, and my company, New York Life. So today's presenter, we have returning for a second time to give us an update on where the company is. We've got Mike Vaggalis. Is that how you pronounce it, Mike? I'm sorry. I have a hard time with last names. And he's going to tell us about what's going on at Keepsake Tales. So I'm going to stop sharing and let Mike take over.
Cool. Thanks, Dominic.
If I can get out of here.
And let me see how I can share my screen. All right. Can you guys see my screen okay?
We can.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Dominic, and thanks, everybody. Again, my name is Mike Vaggalis. I'm the founder and CEO of Keepsake Tales, where we make the most personalized children's books in the world. Thrilled to be back with 1 Million Cups. I presented here last November when we were starting our initial pilot sale. And we've come a long way since then. So I'm really excited to be back in this community. I was telling the organizers beforehand, I've been so impressed with just the entrepreneurial ecosystem that we have here in the Triangle, and feel really fortunate to be part of the 1 Million Cups community. So thank you to the organizers for everything that you guys do, and everybody for showing up. Looking forward to having a great conversation with you this morning. So I'll start with the ask. Looking for a couple of things. First is just introductions to publishers. We're beginning what I'm just calling a publisher discovery process. So traditional publishers like Penguin Random House and Scholastic are really important to us. That's what my desired exit. Introductions to strategic partners, and I'll talk to some of the partnerships that we've already developed, but others like Special Olympics would be fantastic. And then any recommendations on really any part of the conversion funnel. So improving site traffic, improving consideration and or trust with consumers. And then of course, improving conversion. We just launched pre-sales for our second book a couple of weeks ago, but I will get more into that as we go. So if you guys want to keep those things in mind as we move through the presentation. I want to start by asking a simple question. Do I matter? This question resonates in the minds of millions of children across the world. And as kids struggle to see themselves reflected in the content that they consume, especially in the books that they read, they ask this question, do I matter? Children who are racial minorities, children with disabilities, children with sicknesses, these children that are tragically underrepresented in children's literature, start to ask questions like, do I matter as much as those other children? One mom about a year ago, when I was really deep in my consumer discovery, asked me or told me, Mike, it would be so powerful if you could put my daughter Claire in the story because she has Down syndrome and they don't make books for kids like Claire. And that sort of thing goes on all around us. And it broke my heart when I heard about it for the first time. So Keepsake Tales exists because we believe that every child is one of a kind. We believe that every child has intrinsic value. And we're building the most personalized children's books in the world so that every child, regardless of what they look like, will see themselves as the champion of the story. Our products are different because we start our illustration process with a picture of the child. And we turn that picture into an illustration that matches the illustration style of the story, so that every child, regardless of what they look like, will see themselves as the champion of the story. So what do they think about it? Our first customers were obsessed. The most rewarding thing since starting this business has been seeing some of the videos that our first customers sent us, including, for instance, one of a mom who walked into the living room and saw her daughter flipping through the pages of her Keepsake tale, pointing at pictures of herself in the story. And the mom said, "I can't believe it, but she chose her book over the iPad." And it was like, okay, mission accomplished. We're really doing something that parents love and that children love. And I can hear what many of you are probably thinking. Okay, Mike, sounds like a cute idea, but isn't this an Etsy business? How big is it really? And the answer, you guys, is really big. We estimate a serviceable available market of over $2 billion and a beachhead market, children with disabilities, children with sicknesses, and racial minorities, of almost $500 million. Did you know that less than 0.5% of children's books in the market today even include children with disabilities? It's shocking. It's tragic. And it presents a true blue ocean market for whom there are no viable market alternatives. This, we think, is our entry into the market. So what about the competitive space? Surely there are other players in personalized children's books, and there are. When we look at our competitors, we ask two key questions. First, is the illustration of the child coherent with the background illustration of the story? If you look on the bottom right, you'll see one of our competitors that simply takes a picture and puts it on top of a cartoon. We say that's not coherent. It doesn't match the illustration style of the story. Second, is the depiction of the child realistic? Does it realistically depict that child? If you look in the top left, you'll see the two market leaders, Wonderbly and Hooray Heroes, both of whom drove annual revenues of over $30 million last year, but neither of whom have illustrations which are accurate depictions of the child. In our consumer discovery, where we interviewed hundreds of people, we heard time and again, those books don't really look like my child, and they don't. So for the first time, Keepsake Tales is creating stories which are differentiated because our illustrations are both highly realistic depictions of the child, and they seamlessly match the illustration style of the story. Our unit economics, we're currently reliant on a manual personalization process, and we drive lifetime value to acquisition cost numbers of about 4-to-1. However, we've identified an automated approach, which we plan to install by 2021, which enables us to basically negate the personalization expense and improve our LTV to CAC metrics 7-to-1. By 2025, we estimate that we'll be in a position to drive almost $50 million in revenue. And I know that sounds astronomical. However, our growth rates are set in the historical precedence of Hooray Heroes, a market entrant from 2015 who's been driving explosive category growth. We believe that there's a huge opportunity both to grow the category and to steal share from our competitors based on our highly differentiated proposition. So what about the team? So first of all, there's me. I've been a brand marketer, a sales leader, a finance leader, a Kellogg MBA, and I've been growing daily in my abilities as a CEO since starting Keepsake Tales last September. Then there's my amazing business partner, Erin. She's our other founder. She's the COO, and she leads all things creative at Keepsake Tales. She's a mom of 4. She's a publishing expert, and she's been called by some of our customers the best children's author of our generation. And I know that I'm biased, but I could not agree more. We just brought on Shauna, and she's an amazing addition to our team. Shauna's an IP attorney. She's an angel investor, and she's a PhD. So she was our first angel investor that we chose to bring on. And Shauna brings certainly a great legal acumen and helps us with thinking through, our defensibility. But she's also just a great business partner. Then there's Brian. Brian's a multi-time founder, including he was the founder of Walk West, which is the fastest growing marketing agency in North Carolina. And Brian is our technical and our marketing lead. Mandy Harvey, some of you may recognize from America's Got Talent. She was an America's Got Talent finalist from a number of years ago. She loves our work that we're doing. She actually co-authored the book that we just launched pre-sales for a couple of weeks ago. Mandy's an unbelievable performer with recognition across the globe. She's also one of the best people that I know and has been a tremendous asset to our team, both from the creative content creation side and from the driving awareness side. And finally, Steve Dudas. He's our children's literature PhD. You guys, I had no idea there was any such thing as a children's literature PhD until I founded Keepsake Tales. But Steve has been an invaluable asset, making sure we only publish really, truly high quality plot-based stories. Our traction today, we launched our first sale last November for 3 weeks, and we learned a ton. We drove a conversion rate of almost 4%, and it gave us the confidence that we needed to say, we're really onto something here. There is demand for this, and we need to continue to pursue the opportunity. Currently, we launched pre-sales with our amazing partner, No Barriers, a global nonprofit with whom we co-branded, co-developed, and co-launched our most recent book. And we're still at the very early stages of that. However, we've already seen fantastic conversion rate progression on a week-over-week basis, and we're garnering local and even national PR. And then our partners, TCU, No Barriers. I've highlighted WRAL as one of our PR partners among many, but that's been one of the greatest assets that we've developed over the past year, is the very strong strategic partnerships. Again, I'll repeat my ask. We are looking for introductions to traditional publishers like Penguin Random House or Scholastic, introductions to additional strategic partnerships, for instance, the Special Olympics. And then if there's any digital marketing experts out there, any guidance that you can give on improving our efficiency metrics would be appreciated. So I think with that, I am likely about 30 seconds over time, and I will pause for questions. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Mike. We appreciate that. It's exciting to see all the progress you've made since we last saw you present here in November. Before we get into the Q&A, I'm just going to go over the procedure for everybody. It's very simple. If you have a question, please click George in the chat button, send him a private message, let him know that you have a question and would like to get in the queue. He's going to put everybody in order, and when it is your turn, he will send you a message letting you know that you're next, and go ahead and turn on your camera if you have one, and stay muted. Once George recognizes you, unmute, go ahead and ask your question. If you have a brief follow-up question or need clarification, go ahead. But if you are going to go ahead and start a conversation, please, be kind to the rest of the folks here and let them answer their questions. And then after the meeting, if we have time, we can go ahead and readdress the conversation you wanted to have. So with that in mind, George, do we have anybody in the queue who would like to start?
We don't have anybody from the audience, but I got a pre-submitted question today.
Oh, wow. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, so this is a big deal. This one comes from Richard Laxar, and I think it really goes to, it's indirectly a hint about conversion, Mike. So he asks, how did you establish your price point? It seems too high for me. I'm looking for the perfect gift for my soon-to-be 4-year-old granddaughter, and seeing this on the Million Cup schedule, I thought I had a great solution. But $45 seems like way too much to Photoshop in a photo and change the name in the text. I grant that the original artwork takes much more work, but that seems like a one-time investment. I also grant that I may not be appreciative enough of an artist's labor or that I'm simply too cheap. However, I'll be looking around to see if there's any competition.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. We spent a lot of time thinking about our price point. We took a quantitative and a qualitative approach to saying, like, where are we going to anchor our price? We landed at $50 for a couple of reasons. First of all, when we look at the competitive market, one of our biggest competitors, Hooray Heroes, just raised their base prices from $40 to $45. And we believe that we are offering a heightened personalization experience beyond anything that they offer. So to generate a base price point that's below them, I think inappropriately discounts the value that we offer. So that was sort of, point number one. Point number two, qualitative research. We talked, this time last year we had talked to, I think, 200 people, and I wish I had kept track, but it's got to be in the high hundreds of people that we talked to now. And we certainly recognize that there's a spectrum. And we heard from enough people that they're like, man, you should be pricing this thing for like $70 or $80 or something. That I'm like, man, that's ludicrous. There's no way. So we went back and did more of a quantitative study. We've got a sample size of about 200, and we just developed a pricing curve, which shows that our revenue and profit maximizing price point is $50. We're testing the elasticities that we have through discounting. So we just launched a base price discount on the site about a week ago, which lowered our base price from $50 to $45 or $46. And then we're driving velocities with strategic price discounting with some of our influencer partners. We're testing what sort of demand spikes we see with 10% or 20% discounts. And that's sort of industry category standard, is leveraging an influencer price discounting strategy. So the price that a consumer actually pays will be sub $40 for the most part. However, I don't want to compromise our brand perception and be able to claim, the value that we have with our heightened personalization model at more of a $50 price point.
So, Mike, just one thing that was sort of a subtext that I gathered from the question was he believed that the image was being photoshopped in.
Yeah.
Is that actually what's happening?
Yeah, so I alluded to this in my presentation. We have a current process, and then we have actually several iterations of our development of what we're calling our personalization platform yet to come. So right now we have a manual process. We have a production team actually based in the Philippines. And yeah, they take the base photos that the consumer uploads and apply filter technology to those to integrate them into the story. This is a progression from the initial story that we launched. So I hope you guys can see this. This is the story that we launched last November. And we used, so if you imagine from a cartoon to photorealistic spectrum, we had our artists in the first wave. I mean, they just took the picture and they hand created a brand new illustration that falls much more in the cartoon end of the spectrum. So if you guys can see that, that was sort of the initial cartoon style. Some of the initial feedback that we had was, that's really cool. However, it's not as realistic a depiction, Mike, as you guys are branding. So we said, okay, we need to go much more to the photorealistic side, which is what brought us to our current illustration style, which is much more photorealistic. It does leverage filter technology and is based in Photoshop. The place where we see this is, I'm a big believer that it doesn't make sense to overinvest in your technical infrastructure until you've unambiguously demonstrated product market fit. And that's where we are right now, is we are demonstrating to ourselves and to the investor community that our product has something that has a ton of commercial demand for it. So the next step we do, as I've mentioned, have several different technical roadmaps to automate.
Hey, Mike, excuse me. Catherine has a quick follow-up to this this thread, and then we're going to go to Nicole.
Cool.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for presenting. I think to this point on photorealistic versus not, and like on your competitive map, one of your main axes is how the cohesion aspect on, like, is it just a photoshopped head? It sounds like some people may be fine with just a photoshopped head. How have you validated that that's an important pain point for customers?
I think the biggest thing is looking at the competitive marketplace and just seeing like anything from site traffic to any sort of revenue figures we can find on those sort of competitors. They're just not doing well in the marketplace. So that I think is the biggest thing. We certainly heard that in our consumer research as well, but the bigger sample size there is what's happening in the competitive space.
All right, next up is Nicole.
Hey, good morning. Great presentation. It reminds me a lot of what my mom actually gifted to us back in the 80s, where we got to have the books customized to us. I know recently, at least on my side of things, book series and like an MLM type of approach to book and book selling and book buying have been really, really big, especially in the Triangle. Do you guys plan on incorporating into something similar like that? And on that same note, I know the previous guy's question really dealt with, was it worth the investment on one book? Have you guys thought about doing series where you're kind of going along with the life of the kiddo and maybe incorporating friends?
Yeah, so two good questions there. First, multi-level marketing. Our approach is maybe at some point in the future. That's not on our roadmap. The most important revenue driver that we have is our strategic partners and our influencer partnerships. So we recognize right now we are a brand that nobody's really familiar with. And so there's a trust barrier there. So our partnerships, for instance, Gigi's Playhouse is a national leader in the Down syndrome community, or Ronald McDonald House Charities we're working to onboard. And then some influencers like Mandy, who we co-authored the book with, have just high degrees of trust with their consumers. And so we view them as our way to basically access the credibility of those organizations and those partners. And I don't know that having basically a salesperson would enable that same degree of trust. But I think it's a great idea. It's something that maybe becomes doable when we have developed more brand awareness. Series of books, absolutely. So this is the first in a series of books that we're developing with no barriers. Sibling books are, we need a siblings book. We need a book to integrate more children and even like parents and grandparents into the story. We've identified a grandparent book as being one that we definitely will need to accomplish. I think in the overall picture, where I see our stage right now is we're demonstrating product market fit by self-creating our content today. The long-term, like huge opportunity for us comes actually, I believe, post-acquisition, which is why if anybody has introductions to publishers, I'd be really interested. One fascinating statistic is 73% of children's books that were sold last year were classic or backlist titles. And that number's increased every year for the past 5 years of data that I've been able to find, which means that anybody, including us, that's innovating in children's literature is competing for that sub 30% market share of new children's literature. And that's an okay place to start. But where I think the huge opportunity for us comes actually is contemporizing the illustration models of the best-selling classics that are already selling today. So imagine creating a new purchase occasion for Cat in the Hat, where you can put your child in the story with Cat in the Hat. That I think is a much more robust content strategy. And it requires us to be much more of a technology company where we would sell our technology or license our technology to larger traditional publishers or even like outside of children's literature. But right now we're in the space of creating content, demonstrating product market fit by driving revenue so that we can develop that technology.
All right, Gregory is up next.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate your conversation this morning. And I think I remember viewing your virtual presentation back from November. Question, are the books currently age and reading level relevant? And if so, what are those age kind of segments?
Yep. So the book that we just launched is appropriate for children ages 3 to 10. We've even seen some orders come in for children who are older than 10. The content, the storyline is geared, for younger children. But we've seen some customers say, "Yep, I know that the story is a little bit younger, but this is such a cool product. I want my even like preteen kids to be able to see themselves in the story."
Okay. And I'll drop you a note. I might be able to help you with some introductions at Special Olympics.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
And speaking of that, Mike is going to stick around for a few minutes after 10 o'clock. So if you want to explore a topic in a little more detail with Mike, or you just want to chat, we have an unmoderated post-meeting coffee chat. Unfortunately, we don't have coffee. You have to bring your own, but please gather around the virtual coffee pot to chat with Mike after. We have a very unusual situation. First time that I remember this, we actually have 2 Cindys lined up. So the first is Cindy Fitfield, who is new to 1 Million Cups RTP. So huge welcome to you, Cindy. You're muted, Cindy.
Yep, sorry, not used to being muted. Hey, good morning, y'all. I'm Cindy Fifield. I'm the CEO and brand strategist with Nova Design Group down here in Southern Pines. I had a question for you. You're talking about you're looking at improving your site traffic. So tell me what you're doing currently.
Yeah. Well, first of all, welcome to 1 Million Cups RTP, Cindy. It's great to meet you.
Thank you.
Sort of meet you.
Blame Rosalinda for me being here.
Yeah. So our biggest drivers right now are influencers. So Mandy, and then No Barriers, who's the partner that we have co-developed this story with. We are just getting ready to exit pre-sales and enter more like have our bigger sales launch, where we'll integrate more influencers. So we've got 3 other influencers that we have lined up. We're sending product to, and they'll be taking product shots and videos and stuff and posting those to their networks. And then we're also establishing some of those other partnerships with organizations like Gigi's Playhouse, Ronald McDonald House Charities, and some other sort of similar groups. So that's where we're going so far. We had some very, very big site traffic on first week of pre-sales. We had a video that Mandy launched, and in like 4 days, totally unpaid, we had over 14,000 Facebook views and about that on Instagram. So I think that strategy will be right, but we're sort of in a holding pattern until we get product samples to influencers.
Okay. So, hold on, I'm taking notes on you. So influencers is great. I mean, having influencers are really, really cool. And I hope that this is what we're here for, is to help give advice and get you going in the right direction. But you can't just, I mean, it sounds like that's what you're really pushing on right now. It sounds like your first thought was to go with advertisements on on Facebook and Instagram when you introduced, and then you went to influencers. Did I misunderstand that?
No, so that's the playbook. Like when you look at our competitive space, what's driving site traffic, it's predominantly paid social. So that's the category playbook. We are, we're bootstrapping and trying to be super scrappy. And what we found in our launch last November was we were not driving efficiency metrics in paid social. And granted, that was a 3-week time period, so we didn't really have time to build a full campaign around it. So that's something that we want to investigate, but we're looking for more rev share type agreements to drive traffic, as opposed to like swipe the credit card, pay Facebook, and then hope that it comes through.
Okay, good notes, good notes. I will reach back out to you. May have some other suggestions for you. I'm going to think about it a little bit. Okay.
That'd be great. Thank you. I appreciate that, Sam.
Yeah.
Hi, and as I said, we have the other Cindy, a more regular Cindy Foyler.
There you go. Hi.
Hey, Cindy.
How are you? First of all, let me congratulate you on hiring Shauna. That's an amazing move. Shauna and I know each other quite well. She's actually works with a lot of my founders on their IP.
She's amazing.
She is amazing. She's absolutely amazing. But that wasn't what I wanted to tell you. One of the things, I don't know whether you've looked into it or not, but I don't know if you're familiar with Shriners Hospitals, but the Shriners Hospitals basically take care of children with disabilities, and mainly like physical disabilities, like, you know, they can't walk, they can't, those kind of things. They have a lot of money, to be perfectly honest with you. And I could see where they would love something like this to be able to give to the children when they come into the hospital.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's, and unfortunately, I don't have a lot of contacts in that space anymore. But if I can, I'll look back through and see if I can find someone. But I would think that would be an amazing thing for them. And they also have a burns unit hospital in Cincinnati. So just take a look at that, because I honestly believe they would love something like that, where they could, you know, when the kid, because they're not a normal hospital, so to speak, in terms of they don't have regular visiting hours. You leave your child and basically come back and get them, you know, so the kid's there by themselves. So I think something like that would be, and it's not bad. It's a good experience. I've did it, but it's an opportunity for them to kind of cohesive and give them something that makes them feel familiar.
That's a great idea. And you said SHRINER. Did I spell that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you looking through your contacts. I'll hop on and look at that after the call as well. So thank you. That's a great recommendation.
Hey, Mike, can you put up your ask slide again? Remind us of how we can help you.
Yes.
And while you do that, Dave, who I know has already talked to you quite a bit, has a follow-up question for you.
Make it a softball, Dave.
No, I got one comment and a question. The comment is actually all the way rewinding back to the first question, and it seems to me that that there may be a gem buried in that question. Obviously, when we make something, it's not for everyone, but there may be a positioning, kind of messaging positioning question buried in that, right? Is there an opportunity to improve so that particular prospect understands what's different, what's unique, why it's not just slap a Photoshop image in and do that. So that would be something I would want to encourage you not to miss, is to look into that. Sort of the other question that I have is related to Nicole's question, but not so much. The question about an affiliate program, whether or not you guys have explored that as sort of a lightweight way to increase the distribution. If you're talking about improving trust, right? No, people trust people like themselves, and they don't typically connect on Facebook or Instagram or whatever with people that aren't like them. And so that's a sort of a shortcut to trust. So if there's a way to design a lightweight affiliate program that gets those distributions out into those networks, it may be a way to both accelerate your reach, but also improve your trust. So I don't know if you've explored affiliate programs or not.
Can you define affiliate program for me?
So affiliate programs are those things where you have a referral link. They're usually not multiple levels deep like an MLM is, but so you'll see, hey, so Pat Flynn at SPI does this regularly, right? He'll send out his newsletter and he'll say, hey, here's a link to Keepsake Tales. By the way, full disclosure, it's an affiliate link and I get a little kickback from it, but I wouldn't recommend it to you if I didn't think it was important, right? So it's the point is that it's not really deep and complicated, but what you do is you find a couple of people who represent, they're a little bit lower than your influencers, because the influencers often want to be paid. They want to know that you've been around and so on and so forth. But the affiliates tend to be in sort of that in-between space where maybe they have a pretty decent reach, but they're not so big that they're going to ask you for $2,500 or $10,000 per post.
Yeah, no, definitely, Dave. That is very aligned with our strategy. Basically setting up rev share agreements with organizations. So maybe, for example, a leader in the school photo and yearbook market, we're working on a similar sort of agreement there because they have massive reach and it's sort of aligned with what they do. So we are just implementing a similar type approach with them. So yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk some more about it. I think there's an element of sort of corporate affiliate partners, and then there's individual, right? And on the trust scale, they're very different places. So it's worth maybe exploring a little bit more. Happy to talk some more offline.
Cool. Yeah, we can take it offline. But no, I appreciate it. That's a great idea.
All right, and we have one last question. This one is from Dominic, who is our lead organizer and host today. So Dominic's going to ask one question and then wrap things up. And just as a reminder, Mike's going to stick around for that coffee pot chat after we wrap up the formal meeting. Oh, wait a minute. Wait, hold on. Before Dominic, Christy Cook just got a word in. She's got one question for you before Dominic.
Hi there. Thank you so much for your presentation. I'm a business attorney and I work a lot with purpose-driven small businesses. And so I was wondering if you all have considered applying to obtain your B Corp certification. Have you heard of that before?
Yes, and we haven't looked into it. I think it's a great idea. I think that we can certainly look into it. It's just on the list of things that I've got mind share for, it hasn't made its way to the top.
Yeah, I was thinking that, you know, if you're looking to sort of build trust in the community, it might be a really good way to do that, to just having the B circle on your brand. Yeah. I think could go a really long way to building trust.
That's a great idea. Hey, Christy, are you familiar with that process?
So I am actually sort of diving into sort of figuring out how to consult on it, but I do know that the NC State, sorry, my dog's going crazy. NC State has a pilot program that small businesses can apply to, and the students, as part of their senior project, help businesses guide them through the process. And there are a bunch of folks that come in from the community who are already B Corps that help mentor businesses and the students along the way as well. So, so you might look into that as
that's
well.
That's a great idea. Yeah, no, that's I really appreciate it. You know, I think if I've got somebody who can hold my hand through the process, I would love to do that. It is such a daunting thing to think about without that. So I appreciate the resource. It's something to look into.
Hey, Mike, I'm just going to hop in here with a quick follow-up to that. I've got a connection over there at NC State that could probably be a good starting point to talk through that. I'm happy to make that intro for you.
Cool. Thanks, Dave.
All right. As they say in the casino, no more bets. Dominic's going to ask his question and then take us home.
Yeah, I just had a question when it came to market size. Now, I know you're focusing on children's books, but you're also looking at creating strategic partnerships with groups like Special Olympics, and I know Special Olympics deal with heavily with adults with disabilities as well, particularly adults with some sort of cognitive disability or even potentially traumatic brain injury that would have families that want to share special gifts with them. And have you considered maybe creating a product in the future that could maybe capture that market, say a personalized graphic novel or something to that effect, because that could certainly expand pretty exponentially your total potential market. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that there's, when you look at market expanders, one is like age. So absolutely, building products that meet other age demographics. There's different mediums. So when we get the personalization platform and the core technology developed, I think there's applications there beyond literature. So think like toys or dolls, for instance. Like we on our roadmap, we've got, wouldn't it be cool if we had a partnership with American Girl doll, which has very aligned D&I sort of initiatives. So I think that's a great idea. At this point, we are laser focused on winning children's literature, particularly the personalized children's literature market, and that's a big enough challenge for now. But yeah, I think when we look at total market size, it becomes much, much, much bigger than if you just look at the slice of children's literature. But even that's a $2 billion annual category in the US.
Gotcha. Well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate you, coming here and sharing where you're at now. A lot of progress. Those of you who weren't here in November when Mike came, it's very different. The team is built out. The idea is far more, I guess, formalized, as it were, and it's really great to see somebody come back and share successes as well as, a vision for the future. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the meeting. But first, we've got community announcements. If anybody here has something that they would like to share with the community, whether that be an event, something that's going on with their business that they'd like to share, a community resource that you've discovered, we'd be glad to hear it. Same process. Go ahead and send George a message. Let him know that you've got an announcement for the community, and we would love to hear it. My announcement, as always, is we are always looking for new presenters. So if you are a company that you think would benefit from presenting at 1 Million Cups, whether you need practice giving your presentation, you need public speaking practice, you need a very specific ask about, as Mike did with market size or, potential marketability, connections, any of those things, please apply to present. We'd be glad to help you out. With that, George, do we have any other people in line for community announcements?
Yeah, we certainly do. So Catherine from NC Idea has got 2 important announcements for us.
Excellent. You're muted, Catherine.
Of course. So a couple things happening at NC Idea that people might be interested in. One is the NC Idea Labs program, which is like an accelerator without funding, really good for getting better at customer discovery, especially. There is going to be an after hours version of that that's for people who are working generally, so it can fit with your work schedule if you're a part-time founder. And the applications for that are due September 7th, so this coming Monday. And also, NC Idea is currently hiring for a program manager role, and they're looking for people who want to work with supporting entrepreneurs, so similar to this group.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that.
So I've got a couple more, actually.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Cindy wants to talk to us about SCORE.
Hey guys, yeah, so SCORE is really huge in my area down here. We have a great SCORE team now as opposed to when I first started out here a few years ago. But that was my first introduction to 1 Million Cups. With I'd never made it to one, but I was invited to the Fayetteville one right as COVID hit. But it was through the SCORE group. They were talking about how it was a great way for them to help their people explore their options and get more feedback. But SCORE is a one-on-one relationship. with a group of people, and they will help you from the very beginning. So if there's someone just starting out, even just has a fresh idea, they're really great at taking that idea and teaching you what the steps are, especially with your business plan and stuff. That's the biggest thing I see with my company when people come to us for their branding and everything. They don't know what a business plan is. They haven't looked at their finances or anything, so they have no clue what to expect with cost and things. So I just really want to put that out there, that if you know someone starting up or just looking for help yourself, SCORE is a great free resource that you can go back to as well.
Thank you, Cindy. And Dave Bates has got one for us too.
Yeah, hey, some of you may know I am a part-time coach for Seth Godin in a couple of his workshops. There's another version of the marketing seminar workshop that's coming out. It starts in the middle of September. It is a paid thing, but it's a fantastic, different way of looking at marketing. It teaches you as a community of folks who are like-minded and really trying to get better at sort of the generous side of marketing, not what sometimes people feel like is a little bit manipulative. So if you're interested, it's a big commitment. It's a fairly lengthy workshop, but it is absolutely worth the time and money invested. I'll drop a link if you're interested, or you have questions. Feel free to ping me and let me know.
All right, and I have one more actually. There is tomorrow evening from 7 o'clock to usually about 8:39. There is an evening virtual networking. It is just general networking. There's no agenda or anything of the sort. It is a Rockstar Connect event, and if you'd like to join, it's completely free. Just come on by, meet some new people, and love to have you there. I'll be hosting that one as well, and I'll put the link, the Eventbrite link in the chat for that. So with that, glad to have everybody here. We'll be, after we go off of Facebook, we are going to have Mike stick around for a while and just do some general conversation and chat. So if you had any other questions or wanted to do some follow-ups with him, please stick around, and we'll be here as long as Mike wants to continue. So